Look at this face. It is not a sculpture. It is not a statue carved by any artist. It is a person, a real human being, frozen at the exact instant they died. Almost 2,000 years ago, they curled against the darkness, shielded their mouth from the burning air, and waited for an end they must have prayed would never come. And the ash remembered them. This is a citizen of Pompeii, a Roman city that vanished from the face of the earth in a single day. The story of their final 18 hours is more terrifying than any legend. And almost everything you think happened here is wrong. In the year 79 AD, Pompeii was a jewel of the Roman world. A wealthy, sun-soaked city on the Bay of Naples, 15, maybe 20,000 people. Bakeries, brothels, theaters, painted villas, fast food counters on every corner. Above it all rose a green and beautiful mountain, Vesuvius. Its slopes were covered in vineyards. No one living remembered it ever burning. To them, it was not a volcano at all. It was just a hill. In the days before the disaster, the ground began to tremble. Small earthquakes, again and again. But the people of Pompeii felt nothing strange in that. As one Roman wrote, the tremors were not particularly alarming because they are frequent in Campania. So they ignored them. They had no idea the mountain was not waking up. It was about to die and take them with it. Around 1 o'clock in the afternoon, Vesuvius tore itself open. It did not flow with gentle lava. It detonated. A column of superheated ash, gas, and pulverized rock blasted 21 miles straight up into the sky, punching into the stratosphere at a rate of 1.5 million tons per second. In total, the eruption would release 100,000 times the energy of the atomic bomb dropped on Hiroshima. Across the bay, a 17-year-old boy watched it rise. His name was Pliny, Pliny the Younger, and he would write the only eyewitness account that survives. He said the cloud looked like a tree, a great pine tree, with a single enormous trunk that climbed into the heavens and then spread out at the very top into monstrous branches. It was beautiful, and it was the last thing thousands of people would ever see clearly. Then the sky began to fall. First came the pumice, light porous volcanic stone, raining down on Pompeii by the millions. It piled in the streets. It buried gardens. It built up on the rooftops, inch after inch, hour after hour. And here is the part the movies never tell you. This first phase lasted around 18 hours. 18 long hours of falling stone, but stone that, at first, did not kill. This was the city's one chance, and most of Pompeii took it. They grabbed what they could carry, jewelry, coins, silver, and they ran. We know this because of all the people who lived there. Only around 1,000 bodies have ever been found. The vast majority escaped into the darkness, but not everyone believed it was the end. Some stayed to guard their homes, some sheltered indoors and waited for it to pass. For them, the waiting would be fatal. While thousands fled the mountain, one man turned his ships toward it. Pliny the Elder, uncle of the young eyewitness, was a famous scholar and the admiral of the Roman fleet stationed across the bay. As the cloud bloomed over Vesuvius, a desperate message reached him. A woman named Rectina, trapped at the foot of the volcano, begged him to save her. Her only escape was by sea. The admiral made his choice in an instant. He ordered the warships launched, not away from the eruption, but directly into it. A rescue mission into the heart of the apocalypse. As they sailed closer, Hot cinders and blackened, broken rock began crashing onto the decks. The helmsman begged him to turn back. Pliny refused. He spoke the words that would outlive him by 2,000 years. Fortune favors the brave. And he ordered them onward into the falling fire. The Admiral never reached Rectina. The sea itself had turned against him, choked with debris, the shoreline blocked by the rising tide of stone. So he changed course for Stabiae, to the villa of a friend, and there he made an astonishing decision. He acted calm, deliberately, defiantly calm. He bathed, he dined, and then, with the mountain exploding a few miles away, he went to bed and fell asleep. His servants reported they could hear him snoring loudly through the door. But the pumice kept falling, and the courtyard outside his room filled so fast that soon the door would be sealed shut forever. They woke him. The household had to decide: stay inside and risk being buried alive, or run out into the storm of falling rock.
The city is burning!
They chose to run. And to survive the bombardment from above, they tied pillows on top of their heads with strips of cloth and walked out into a night blacker than any night had ever been. They made it to the shore, but the sea was too wild to launch a boat. The air there had turned poisonous, thick with sulfur and volcanic gas. Flames and the smell of burning rolled in across the beach. The others panicked and fled. But Pliny the Elder could go no further. He asked for a sheet to be spread on the ground, and he lay down upon it. And there, on the shore, the old Admiral died, most likely from the toxic fumes or a failing heart. His friends had no choice but to leave his body behind. 3 days later, when the ash finally settled, they came back for him. And they found him exactly where he had fallen, his body whole, untouched, without a wound or a mark. He looked, they said, not like a dead man at all. He looked like a man who was simply asleep. Back at Pompeii, the people who had stayed were still alive. They had survived the falling stone. They thought the worst was over. They were wrong. The worst had not even begun.
The mountain has erupted.
Early on that second morning, the towering column of ash finally collapsed under its own weight. And what came next was not a rain. It was an avalanche. A pyroclastic surge, a churning, ground-hugging wall of gas and ash racing down the mountain at hurricane speed, at a temperature of around 300 degrees Celsius. For the people of Pompeii, there was no running, no screaming, no final goodbye. At that heat, death was instant. In a fraction of a second, the surge killed everyone it touched. The contorted, huddled poses we see today were not slow agonies. They were caused by the heat itself, snapping the muscles tight in the very instant of death. In some victims, the blood boiled. Skulls cracked from the pressure inside, and in one, the heat was so extreme that the brain was found turned impossibly to glass. By the evening of the second day, it was over. Pompeii was gone. Not damaged, not ruined, gone. The entire city lay buried beneath nearly 20 feet of ash and stone. Its neighbor, Herculaneum, was sealed under as much as 70 feet. The eruption had buried the streets, the houses, the temples, and the bodies under a tomb so deep that the city simply disappeared from the world. The survivors scattered. The Roman emperor sent aid, but there was nothing left to save. In time, the very location of Pompeii was forgotten. New generations farmed the rich volcanic soil above it. never knowing that an entire civilization lay frozen beneath their feet. For nearly 1,700 years, Pompeii slept in the dark. The greatest snapshot of the ancient world ever taken, waiting, perfectly preserved, for someone to dig it up. When Pompeii was finally rediscovered, the early diggers found something strange. Here and there in the hardened ash were hollow spaces, empty pockets shaped like nothing in particular. For more than a century, no one understood them. Until 1863, when an archaeologist named Giuseppe Fiorelli realized the truth, and it was haunting. The bodies of the victims had decayed away over the centuries, leaving behind perfect, human-shaped voids in the rock. The ash had hardened around them like a mold. So Fiorelli did something no one had thought to do. He poured liquid plaster into the empty spaces, let it set, and then chipped away the surrounding ash. And the dead came back. Not skeletons, not statues. The exact shape of a human being in their final moment. The folds of their clothing, the clench of their fingers, the expression frozen on their face. A mother shielding her child, a man covering his mouth, a dog, still chained, twisting against its collar. These are the casts of Pompeii, and they are why we can still look the victims in the eye. The ash that killed Pompeii also preserved it, in unbelievable detail. In one snack bar, archaeologists found the food still in the pots: duck, pig, fish, and snails, abandoned on the day the world ended. They found loaves of bread, carbonized but whole, still stamped with the baker's mark. Election slogans painted on the walls, graffiti scratched by ordinary people, jokes, insults, declarations of love. They even found a tiny pet dog, bred to be no bigger than your hand, and a magnificent ceremonial chariot of bronze and silver. And one small piece of charcoal graffiti rewrote the history books. For centuries, we were taught the eruption happened in August. But that scrawled date, and the autumn fruit found in the ruins, now suggest it actually struck 2 months later in October. Pompeii is not a ruin. It is a moment in time, a single ordinary day, sealed forever at the instant it became the worst day in the city's history. So here is the truth that changes everything. Pompeii is not really the story of a city that was destroyed. Remember, most of its people escaped. The 18 hours of falling stone gave them the time they needed to run. The ones we find today, frozen in the ash, are not the whole city. They are the ones who waited too long. The ones who didn't believe it. The ones who went back for their gold. The ones who were sure the danger would pass and that tomorrow would look like yesterday. That is what makes Pompeii so haunting. Not the volcano. Us. Because every one of us, standing in that city, would have told ourselves the same comforting lie. It won't happen today. 2,000 years later, the casts are still asking the same question. If the ground beneath you started to shake, and everyone around you said it was nothing, would you run, or would you wait? Subscribe, and we'll keep telling the stories the ash kept.